Hello. Check, check, check. Looks like I'm live. If anyone jumps in here, let me know how it sounds. It's been a minute since I've live streamed on Friday, so we'll see who shows up. Just trying to get. I'll wait a few minutes still. Get a few people in here. Just gonna noodle randomly. Why not? There we go. Cool. Let me know if it's sounding okay out there. We'll see if my computer can handle streaming and running this song at the same time. Had to print some of the stuff to audio because all the plugins make it pretty CPU intensive. As you can see, my CPU meter there is... Actually, no, you can't because my guitar's in the way. It's going wild there. So if I play all the instruments at once, it may or may not have a hard time kind of handling it, but should be okay, especially if I'm just diving into like individual parts. The mic is low. I'm probably just talking quietly. Hey, Curtis, how's it going? Oh, Evan, hello. Check, check. 1, 2. How's that? 1, 2. I think it's probably just me talking too quietly. I have a tendency to do that. I found when I make my videos that when I go... Well, the thing I really do that's bad is I trail off at the end of sentences. Like when I make my lessons, I'll look at the audio, and then it's like it's pretty nice and even, and then right at the end of the last sentence before I like stop whatever paragraph I'm doing, it's like kind of like fades out. So I will try to speak nice and clearly. That's one thing I noticed on. Cool, thanks. That's better. I noticed on some of my early videos that I did for the Prog School is like. I just talked like really quietly. I kind of had to. This sort of thing isn't my normal. Like I don't feel like comfortable necessarily talking out loud. I've kind of had to force myself to do it through making a bunch of videos. So I have to. I have to talk really loud, way louder than you'd think, and be much more animated, at least for me, than I normally am. I'm fairly unanimated in real life. Just in kind of normal talking anyway. All right, cool. So we have at least a few people here. I'll play parts of the song too. And if you have any questions on things as I go along, let me know. And if you want me to play certain parts of the song, you can just let me know as well. Let's see what I remember how to play. Of course, I have the tabs, I suppose, if I need to look it up. This is my new song, Broken Epistemology, off the EP I just released, which is just 2 songs, but... I broke down the other song in my last live stream with Esteban and Gerald, my friends. Gerald wrote the lyrics and Esteban did the drums. So, guitar sound is so MIDI. Well, I mean, the guitar is literally going direct from my Kemper through a bunch of other processing. So, it's not going to be the most probably organic sound, unfortunately. That's kind of just the nature of it. Well. I also could have just been the tone I happen to be using right then. It sounds good to me through out here, but maybe it's not translating that direction. Such is the nature of digital technology sometimes. I don't have a, cab mic'd up back there or anything. So this is the session for Broken Epistemology. There's lots of stuff going on. I really kind of want to dive into the vocals, especially because CJ Jenkins, who sang vocals on this is Buried Alive cover. Please, no, I won't. Okay. Yeah, there's a little bit of a delay from when you comment to when I see it, so. Yeah. Okay, cool. I'll just respond as things come in. Anyway, CJ did a really good job on the vocals on this, and if you don't know who he is, he was the lead vocalist in the progressive metal band that I'm in. Well, I guess we're technically on a hiatus, but A Sense of Gravity. Embrace the MIDI. I will embrace the MIDI. If it sounds like MIDI, maybe I'm playing so cleanly that it just sounds like MIDI. I'm just gonna go with that. Anyway, he's the lead singer for A Sense of Gravity. We haven't done anything for a long time, but I thought his voice would work really well on this song, so I had him sing, and it turned out really well. So we'll dig into some of that as well. But let's just start at the beginning of the song. This song features real drums too, just like the Great Stereopticon. Stebbins playing drums on this as well. And pretty much everything in this is live, real instruments except for all the keyboard parts. But all right, so that's the big old intro. I kind of wanted this simple melody that went over top of this syncopated rhythm. The rhythm's actually quite confusing. I don't know if I have the time signatures listed here. Oh, I do if I pull them up. Time signatures. Kind of goes between 6/4 and then there's some bars of 7/4, but I'm kind of accenting like weird spots of it here and there. If I solo just the melodic parts, kind of hear the melody that's happening here. It's literally just all in unison pretty much. Well, I guess there's octaves in the lead guitar, and some of the other keyboard instruments, but there's no harmony happening on that at all. The harmony kind of enters in the second half. I'll mute the lead guitar. The harmony's happening in that keyboard pad. Right. And if you watch my lesson I put out earlier this week, it's a big old 25-minute masterclass lesson. I went into depth on this song, mostly on the structure of the song, so I won't really talk about that much here, but I did cover some of the chords as well. There are some interesting chords here and there throughout the song. Especially like, let's see, this one of these ones here. Right here. Let's see. So there's a couple, it's kind of blending D major and D minor, or D minor and D major kind of together. So there's starts in D minor and then there's a D major 7 in there with an F sharp in the bass. It's kind of a weird chord. Actually, I'll play it. Why not? I want a 7 string drop in. I can hardly hear that note. Where's it go from there? It's like B flat. C. It's actually B flat. Sharp 11. B flat major, sharp 11. C. G, add 9 with B in the bass. So a bunch of inverted chords too. That's a major part of the chorus of the song, especially is all these. Inverted chords. Really like the sound of those. They're, a little less common than you'd get in this kind of music, but adds a little variety to it. And then there's this arpeggiated part. It kind of gets buried in the mix because the melody is more the focus, but it happens in the lead guitar and this synth line. I wanted to kind of bring that out more, but I focused on the melody instead. Like, it's definitely there, but oh, there goes my computer. Performance issues. That's actually a super hard part to play. I don't even remember exactly how it goes. I can look at the tab later maybe, but it's a 5-note pattern. I think that's the basis of it. 1, 2, 3, 4. Something like that. So there's 5. It's a 5-note pattern working against that kind of pulse, quarter note pulse. So it's like a polyrhythmic kind of a thing. And there's that main riff of the song. This is all in 4/4, which is maybe uncommon for me. I'm really pleased with the way that this riff turned out. I don't do a lot of riff-based songs as much as I used to. I'm kind of more focused on, melodic and rhythmic ideas that kind of morph throughout the song. But I did want kind of a big riff, a couple of riffs in the song. And this is one in particular. Is like very much guitar-focused, written on the guitar, meant to be like a, headbanging sort of a riff. There's some interesting chords in there. It's kind of mostly A Phrygian based off that low sliding riffs. Pretty tricky one. There's a couple interesting chords in there as well. Let's listen to just the drums on that. So that's the drums. It is more sample enhanced than the Great Stereopticon was, because this is much more of a metal type of song. So I'm leaning a little heavier on the samples of the kick and snare, especially, than I did in the other song. But if I take off all of the plugins, you'll hear. And I talked about this with Esteban when he was on during the last live stream. He doesn't have the world's greatest setup for recording drums, and it's not his fault. It takes a lot of money to do that kind of stuff. But we made it work with what we had. So if I turn off all the plugins, I'll play that part again. Curtis, are you wondering how much influence I had on the drum parts or like the sounds themselves? Obviously, you can tell I did a lot with the sound of the drums. I'm assuming you probably mean the parts. If that's the case, then a lot. But I also gave Esteban some freedom too. So when I write these days, I'm pretty specific about what I want. Like all of the main grooves, like that part in particular during that riff, that's exactly how I wrote it. Yeah, the parts. That's exactly how I wrote it during that riff. There's other parts, specifically like fills, where I give the drummer a lot of leeway because I'm not a drummer. I know how to write some basic fills, but it's not really my cup of tea. So if I'm working with a good drummer, I'll let them, do what they want as far as the fills go. And there's a few fills later on where Steban just, kind of went for it. We'll talk about those when I get there. And then there's a few grooves where he might have adjusted a couple of things and also things like cymbal choices. When I send the music out, it's like I'll have a bunch of places where there's crashes and he ends up just doing hi-hat instead or choosing a different cymbal because, real drummers, they all have different cymbal choices available to them. So that's the kind of stuff that I don't care so much about. It's like, for me, it's what the overall groove is, especially where the snare hits are and the backbeats, that kind of stuff. I have pretty locked in, and if the drummer wants to try something out and it works, that's great. But typically I know what I want. So I used to be more loose on that when I'd write. I'd just kind of be like, here's the groove and here's, the kick drum following the guitar or whatever. I've gotten a lot more specific because I've been programming drums a lot and I'm trying to make them sound somewhat realistic. So I have to do things that I think a drummer would actually do. Let's listen to the bass tone because the bass tone is super heavy. In fact, it might even be too distorted now that I listen back to it. I mixed this, I want to say it's almost been an entire year since I mixed this. The release of this song and everything kind of got pushed back because I was doing the music video for the other song. And yeah, anyway, so there's definitely some things I'd probably do differently as far as the mix goes here. But here's how the bass sounds during that riff too. It's actually quite distorted, probably more distorted than I would go for these days, but it blends with the guitars pretty well. Anyway, and here's the guitar soloed. Yeah, nasty, probably nasty in a bad way if you're referring to the bass tone. I think at this point I hadn't had my bass for very long. I'm still kind of like working out exactly what it is tone-wise, but it works really well, especially in the first verse coming up here. It works super well. So now, after this part, we get into the verse.
No way to believe in my life beneath grace. Acts that I refuse to face. I believe you, I believe you lost faith in me. I know why, I know why my eyes do not see.
So first of all, I feel really bad for CJ having to sing these rhythms because they are really, really weird, super weird vocal rhythms. And that's kind of why I have the vocals on one note for the most part. I want to say, Curtis, actually that, you're talking about Jacob Umansky's like, are you talking about the MIDI plugin or are you talking about an actual sound effect plugins? Because his MIDI bass one, I know the virtual instrument is super, super cool sounding. Obviously, I prefer to have real bass as much as possible. In fact, I think maybe not on this song, but in a lot of the other songs I've been doing, I have Neural DSP's Parallax. Yeah, this is my own preset, but I have actually used the Jacob Umansky, this one here, Toner? That's funny. I've been using that particular preset, I think, on all of my newer mixes. It sounds really nice. Yeah, it's just maybe a little too distorted for me on this one, but it is what it is, so I'm just going to leave it how it is. The bass really just kind of take over in this first verse too. See, I think that heavy distortion works really well on this particular part. Some of the like faster runs, it gets a little muddy to me, but here it's like really nice and punchy. This part I did some cutting of the sound, like I cut out all the extraneous noise because this is supposed to be like dun, 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 very kind of rhythmically focused. And then underneath this, we got all these weird keyboard parts, and it's actually 4 keyboard instruments all doing the same thing. Varying levels of attack on these. This one's kind of like smoother, and they're kind of panned different directions too. That's panned to the right. That one's like super attack heavy. That one's the ultimate. So all blended together and panned how I felt they worked. It kind of, you get the weird flowiness of the synth, but you also get the attack too. Especially that one over there. And there's other parts like this riff in the middle where some of the synth I drop out because it didn't work as well, but so that's kind of happening underneath all of this. It's pretty prominent in the first verse. It gets a little more back in the mix once more things get added on through each verse. And there's this transition between the two verses. Oh, I suppose I should unsolo everything. Actually, let's look at the verse part here. So CJ has 3 vocals here. Oh, hey, CJ. CJ's here. You can ask him questions about the vocals. You can ask him how hard it was to do the rhythms on this. How's it going, CJ? I thought about like zooming you and having you jump on, but I didn't know if you were going to be available.
No way to, no way to.
This is the first verse.
Believe in my lies beneath ways, facts that I refuse to face. I believe you. I believe you lost faith in me. I know why. I know why. My eyes do not see.
So I made CJ go like crazy on the range here too. This is like really low down. I think my thought process was it was going to like slowly get higher and higher through each verse. Because when the third verse kicks in, he's essentially doing this exact same thing 2 octaves higher, which is really cool. That's one of my favorite parts of the song. I do recall, because he has 3 different vocal tracks here, I do recall kind of, I didn't really have to do much pitch correction, but I had to do some time correction just so they're all like super tight. And then on top of that, I actually did an octave up from there.
No way to, no way to believe in my lies beneath waves.
I thought it needed that extra little bit on top, so.
No way to, no way to believe in my lies beneath waves.
So that's my part. It's a little more back in the mix, but it's up on top. And then if I do that like with the synth together, you'll get.
No way to, no way to believe in my lies beneath waves. Facts that I.
Oh. Let's do bass with that too.
No way to, no way to believe in my lies beneath waves.
Actually, if I do the bass and vocals together, you kind of hear what I was going for. Whether it came across like I wanted to, I'm not sure. But the idea was the bass is going to hit in certain spots. I have kind of an underlying rhythm underneath it, and then the vocals are going to hit some of those, but also fill in some of the gaps too. So
no way to believe in my lies beneath ways, facts that I refuse to face. I believe you lost faith in me. I know why my eyes do not see.
Yeah, it actually works pretty well, especially when it's soloed like that. That kind of leaves some nice space for the vocals to fill out certain spots, and then the synth underneath can kind of have some space to work as well. Essentially, the second verse that happens here right after this little interlude is basically the exact same thing. I just add rhythm guitars in on that low open note, and then a few other sort of layers. So when that kicks in here, there's the rhythm instruments. I really like the bell of the ride. It's really cool. Kind of adds like a nice, almost like a fusion-esque type of a groove to it. This sounds super tight with just the drums, bass, and guitar. The tones I have in the bass and guitar, they work really well for this particular kind of riffing, like the like one note kind of genty stuff. Maybe not doesn't work as well on the faster stuff, but my signal chain on guitar, CJ. This was the Kemper with the cab turned off, and then I believe I used Get Good drums. At this point, I had the Zilla cabs is the one I used, because I've been using the Cali cabs, which is their newest IR pack, which I prefer a lot more, especially for heavier sounds. And then I printed that to audio, and then this whatever processing I did here on the backside, just some EQ, multi-band compression, a little bit of saturation, and then a little bit of a pan to like pan them out a little bit wider. Looking back on it, as I mentioned, I mixed this like a year ago. I'm not the biggest fan of this guitar tone particularly. I think it works fine. I think I've gotten better since then as far as working out tones for rhythm guitars. It's kind of like the bane of every metal musician's existence is trying to get good rhythm guitar tones, but I'm figuring it out slowly. The other thing I do here is in this second verse is add a guitar that doubles the low synth part. So this is so far back in the mix you don't even really know that it's there, but part is actually stupid hard to play on guitar. So if I do that with the synth, you can hear it on the left side. It's not terribly loud, but I thought it kind of just thickened it up a little bit. And what else did I add? Oh yeah, there's a pad that comes into. It's just holding like these long chords. If I do that with the vocals, you'll get
no way to be, no way to share the color I see in my mind. My never mind. Broken epistemology. How can you trust what you will never get to see the emptiness?
And I added one harmony in one spot. This third above here.
See the emptiness. See the emptiness.
I don't know. Just felt like it needed to be there. It's once again kind of not super prominent in the mix, but that's what it is. And then from here it goes straight to the first chorus, where CJ actually gets to sing properly.
Can't be my green. Got behind the camera, I can't see. The prison's made for those who believe we're free. Caught behind the camera, see.
Yeah, that's great. That's like, I mean, CJ, you have a very good range, obviously, but this is like a really, like a super good party range. At least to me, it sounds really nice. And CJ sent me one lead vocal track. Essentially what I did was just double it, and then this one I used this panning plugin that essentially like just like slightly detunes it and splits it off to the side.
Caught behind the camera, I can't
Just thickens it up.
see the prison's made for those who believe we're free.
And I have two. Did I hear? Wait, I have to listen to that again.
Believe we're free. We're free.
Oh, that might be in the song. It sounds like a text message ring. Did you get a text message while you were recording this, CJ? Listen.
We're free.
That's what it sounds like to me. If that's the case, I love that. That's awesome. It's obviously not audible, but within the song. And then as far as processing on the vocals, I have like a ton of compression, especially. I mean, that's pretty common for this kind of vocals. Like uber amounts of compression, multiple compressors kind of running at once. Where is it? There it is. Yeah, two compressors, so the 1176 and then the Pro C2, a de-esser. This just kind of cuts harshness. It's called Brainworks Refinement. And then limiter, just kind of limit everything off. A long delay, short delay. And there you go. It kind of just keeps everything pinned in one spot because you want the vocals to really pop on top. Thanks, Curtis. I think this chorus turned out really well, too. I'm pretty pleased with it. It's interesting, but it's also kind of catchy at the same time, it's kind of a hard balance to strike in prog, you know. But I had originally, my goal was to write a song using like a pop song structure as kind of was like the original inspiration for this song. So if you're going to do something like that, it's really important that the melody of the chorus especially be at least somewhat catchy. If I solo the rhythm guitars with the vocals, you kind of see how these parts are working together.
Caught behind the camera, I can see the prison's made for those who believe we're free. Caught behind the camera, I see.
I mean, the guitar part's kind of harmonizing the vocals melody in spots. It's pretty much going right with it rhythmically as well. And these are arrangement things that I think about as I'm writing, is like are all these parts working together? And then on top of that, we have the pad, which is kind of doubling the melody to a piano.
Caught behind the camera, I can see the prison's made for those who believe we're free. Caught behind the camera, I
Especially the piano.
Caught behind the camera, I can see the prison's made for those who believe we're free. Caught behind the camera, I see.
Yeah, it's really funny. Like when you solo things, you hear so much more. And it's like you can go overboard on that stuff sometimes. Like if I solo drums, it's like I spend so much time trying to like gate the snare and get rid of all extraneous noise. And then as soon as you put it in this like super dense metal mix, like that stuff to a certain extent doesn't matter as much as you might think it does, you know. So that goes to show it's like you might have a weird sound. Like there's probably I've had that before in guitars too, where like there'll just be some sort of weird sound that happens, you know. I don't know what it is, but in the context of a mix, it might not even like be an issue at all. So I just thought that was funny because I didn't even notice that until just now. I was like, wait, that sounds like a text message ring. I thought I got a text like on my phone. I was like, wait, no, I think that's actually in the recording. So that's kind of how the chorus works. And each chorus is slightly different. So the second one's a little bit longer than the first one, and then the last one's quite a bit different in a couple of different ways. But it was important for me to kind of let the choruses grow with the song too. And I talk about that in my lesson I did for this song. But from there, it goes back to the main riff again, which is essentially just the same as the first time it happens. Actually, not completely the same. I do add in a few keyboards just on certain spots. So here's what the keyboards are doing. So the synth is just playing the runs that are part of the guitar riff, and the electric piano's doing like just a few of the chord stabs. So if I do that with the guitars, you'll kind of hear how they work together. I could have just let this riff go exactly the same as the first time with no keyboards, but just to kind of make it a little bit different the second time around, I'll add those in. And then there's the third verse that kicks in here is basically just a much more dense variation of the other verses. So I really love this third verse. It kind of like takes everything that was cool about the first couple of verses and ramps it up in intensity. First of all, this is really confusing rhythm in the guitars with these muted notes. This took me a really long time to play. It might not sound that hard, and in fact, it's not like perfectly in sync, honestly, as I listen to it. But that was really hard to do. It's like just the kind of, I don't know, there's just something about the syncopation of this particular rhythm was hard to perform. The bass guitar just continues doing just the low notes, and the drums kind of amp up here as well. Anyway, sounds really cool without all the other parts on there. Probably threw too much crap on it. The keyboards do a little bit more here too. This piano. And then there's still all this low synth parts. These get buried more in the mix here because they were just muddying things up too much. Pad strings kind of do what that keyboard was doing too. And there's more vocals here. This might actually be the most dense part of the entire song as far as like how many things are happening. But here's CJ. Well, there's two. I guess he still did the low.
Tattoo off skin.
That sounds really funny. There's still that low one, and then there's the high one.
Tattoo off skin, naked bread. No place for me to say plant my flag in. Shifting sand. No place for me to pray. Sacrifice the altar for empty. Chalice, sun was red in the bones. I fight faith because he made.
So there's these vocal harmonies that kick in halfway through this chorus, which is actually one of my favorite vocal things in the whole song. I think there was so much going on, I couldn't really get it as loud as I wanted in the mix. But if you listen to just my parts here, I'm kind of doubling.
Hey, plant my
my flag in.
Actually, no, I do a fifth. Yeah, I do a fifth.
Tattoo of skin, naked breath.
No pledge for me to say, plant my flag in. Shift in 10. No place for me to pray. Sacrifice the altar.
Right there.
For an empty chalice. Sun must bled in the bones.
Well, I wish I could sing that high too, Curtis. It's super high. It's an A, pretty much consistently on an A, which in full voice that's near the top of where I can sing full voice. Obviously not as intense as CJ can, but it's definitely up there really high. But there's these stacked chords. I don't even remember exactly what this is. I think it's like a half diminished chord.
Sacrifice the altar for an empty chalice. Sun must bled in the bones. I find faith because he made.
And then I stack these big chords during these chord stabs too, which also get kind of buried in the mix. But
make me, face me, make me, fade me.
And those ones get doubled by the screaming, the harsh vocals that come in.
Make me, fresh me, make me, fade me.
I love soloing harsh vocals. It just sounds hilarious.
Make me, fresh me, make me, fade me.
I love the low one. And he doubled this, and I just kind of put one of them higher in the mix, the one that I like the sound of more. I added a little bit of extra saturation and distortion on the processing side of this harsh vocals too, just to make it even that much more intense. It's not like an extreme amount more, but it's enough that kind of. Where's the harsh vocals? There it is.
Make me, fresh me, make me.
Actually, it's quite a bit. It just kind of adds that extra intensity there. So then it kicks to the second chorus, which is essentially the same as the first chorus, just slightly extended. I'll get into the bridge in a second, but it does that intro. That whole part. I wanted to kind of talk about the chorus riff that happens here, because basically it's just chords. It's kind of the foundation of this chorus. But instead of just playing straight chords, I wanted something that moved a little bit more and kind of played off the vocals a little bit, like I showed earlier. But little bending. Not that it's super complex or anything, but it's just more interesting than... Which is actually exactly what I do in the last chorus, because I wanted to simplify the last chorus. But that's the chorus riff that's happening underneath this. It's tempting in a chorus to just kind of like pound out power chords, which can work. But if you can do something that's maybe a little bit more involved and kind of like connects with everything else, that's kind of my preferred method. There's this cool drum part in this when the intro comes back here that I really like. That part. Really playing off those groups of five. And the choruses are a good example actually of a Stebbin really adding to the song. Like I kind of just had more of a basic groove that followed it, the melody and the guitars and stuff here, but he kind of changed it up as the chorus went along. Each chorus he kind of like added more. Like that fill was added. Those double kicks here were added. China. That fill too. That's not stuff that I had in there. I just kind of had a groove going through all this, and he used his ear and was like, okay, I think it's cool if I kind of build this stuff through here. And if it was too much, I let him know, but he's pretty tasteful in what he does. And like those kind of fills, they're still latching on to like the main rhythms overall. It's just kind of adding some extra stuff to it. And then we get to the heaviness. So that's this whole crazy heavy section that happens. It's basically just two things that go back and forth. There's this really heavy chugging riff, and then there's the sort of faster part that goes. Actually, I'm going to pull up the sheet music for this because I think there's something really interesting that happens rhythmically on this first heavy riff here, and it's kind of hard to explain without seeing it. We'll see if my computer can handle having Guitar Pro open as well. Yeah, it can. Where is it? When I'm running something that's, got 100 plugins on it, my computer's like, please don't run anything else at the same time. Why are you live streaming and running this at the same time? Okay. I'm going to size this right here. Too zoomed in. Let's see, where is it? Here it is. So basically what you have is these groups of 5. They happen a lot throughout the song. They happen in the intro, they happen in the chorus, they happen during this riff, and they happen in a few other spots. They happen in the bridge, the second part of the bridge. But basically what it is a group of 2 and then a group of 3. So 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 3. So what I do here is basically that. So it's a group of 2 and then a group of 3 as 16th notes. But instead of doing 2 16th notes, I fill that with a group of 16th note triplets instead for a little bit of a faster thing. So it's so these triplets, if you were seeing them against a quarter note, they'd be starting on the beat, the first one, and the second one would be like the second 16th note of the second beat if you were against like a quarter note beat. So it would be a nested tuplet or something, because it would be the triplet wouldn't be happening on the beat. So it's a little bit weird, but I think the extra note in there adds some more intensity, so you get a little bit of a faster chug in there. Instead it would just be, I guess if I did it as 16th notes, would be, I keep dropping picks and I can't find them, because anytime you drop a pick, it ends up in the void and disappears forever. That's why I have many extra picks if I need them. But if I just did 16th notes, it would be right, which does not have the same intensity as doing those triplets. At mid tempos, I'll end up doing a lot of triplets, because I think I guess what I call triplet gallops. So instead of a normal gallop, the triplet. It's actually a sense of gravity riff. I know CJ's going to be in and out, but this is in A on a. This is on a 7 string, so it won't be in the right key. But where I do some triplet gallops in there because the tempo kind of works with having triplet gallops. So that is a thing I'll do if a tempo is slower. If 32nd note gallops are too fast and 16th note gallops feel too slow for me, I'll go somewhere between. There is actually some 32nd notes in the song you can see in this riff. Which is actually really hard to play. This riff is kind of a pain. The gallops aren't too bad. Those little runs in between are tricky. And the I guess what I have titled here is the Prog Riff. This is even harder to play because it's like it's alternate picking, but it's group of 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm not even sure that I can do that up to speed right now. I'm not super warmed up. I would need to work that up again to be able to play it. It's been a while since I played it. But that's actually that's probably the hardest riff in the whole song from a guitar perspective. And then there's chord stabs that happen during that part that are the same as the ones that happen right before the second chorus.
Lights from the ceiling. Make me
into nothing.
Anyway, from here that goes to the 8-bit section. Because why not? It's Prog. You can do some weird stuff. So this is actually literally a program designed to do this kind of classic video game sounds. It's called Super Audio Boy. It's made by Impact Soundworks, which I have a number of their plugins that I really like. I don't know if I used any of the other virtual instruments on this particular song, but I've used a lot of them in the past on other songs. It's literally a program designed to do 8-bit sounds. I just have the free. It's literally free. The one that I have. They do make a paid version you can get that has more options, but the free version has, I don't know, a dozen sounds or so. Can't do a ton of tweaking to them, but it's totally fine for what I was doing. So I kind of blended different sounds that I like, panned them different directions. They're basically all playing this same thing just over and over again. So here's the first sound. And then here's the second sound. And then there's some other ones that just do little stabs here and there. That one's great. And then there's that one. And then I also used a couple of the low synth sounds that happened earlier in the song to kind of fill it up in places too. I like that one. It's got a lot of attack. And then this one. I like that one too. So all combined, you get... And you'll hear how they kind of pan back and forth as they go. Actually, this is the beginning. Alright, so that's the 8-bit part. It's just that faster riff from earlier kind of done with 8-bit sounds, which is cool. And then we get this dissonant riff that leads into probably my favorite part of the song. So this riff is just a tritone power chord, basically. Hammer on. And do the same thing 3 frets down. Just supposed to be completely disgusting, which I think it does the trick. I like to use dissonance like that to kind of, in this way, it's a transition to something else. But when after it breaks from the dissonance to this kind of beautiful section, I think it's a nice contrast. This part is cool, so let's listen through it and then I'll explain what's going on.
Behind the lensing through us.
CJ, this is my favorite part of the song because of your vocals. If you're still hanging out.
Breathing air that's not meant for us. Atoning for our past. The fall is a road made for us. Haunted by failed dreams in the past. The future set before us. The promised land.
Really love that last part. Just so that actually might be. Yeah, you had a really good vocal timbre on this part. This actually might be my favorite part of your range. Is like this second half here.
The fall is a road made for us.
Yeah, that sounds great. Now let's listen to what the background vocals are doing here. Basically, I'm playing the chords and like arpeggiating them with 4 different vocal harmonies. And there's no way anyone's going to catch this. When Gerald wrote the lyrics for this, he actually had 4 different words for each of these lines. So it kind of just sounds like ah. But if you listen closely, I'm actually singing different syllables on each of these background parts. I have to see if I can remember what the words actually are. I think drift behind my eyes, something like that. Sifting through my eyes, called to be alive? I don't. It's something along those lines. I love that last chord. So the last chord is A flat major 7 sharp 5. So it's basically an augmented chord with a major 7 on top. Not a chord you're going to hear in metal that often. So I was glad to be able to squeeze that one in there. These vocal parts are cool. Like some of them have to adjust. I think the top one just stays on the same note, but some of the inner ones have to adjust when the chord changes. Yeah. And there it stays the same. So they're just kind of adjusting to fit the harmony. If I solo that with CJ's vocals, then you'll kind of get a real feel for how this part works. And basically this is like the core of this and then the rhythm underneath, but all the other parts are kind of just enhancing this.
Behind the lensing through us, in dreams we've never had, breathing air that's not meant for us, atoning for our past.
A little bit of falsetto at the end there. It's great. This is one of the reasons why you have multiple singers sing things, because the tone of CJ's and mine's voice are so different that I can lay this pad underneath and he's going to pop out on top. Like in the Great Stereopticon, where it's just my voice like 40 times, there were places where, because it's me singing all of them, it's like certain things didn't pop out the way I wanted to. I think ideally I probably would have had a lot of those parts sang by a bunch of different singers. I just, for the ease of it, I did it all myself. But ideally, when you're doubling stuff, you're going to have multiple people doing that. We had a few parts in A Sense of Gravity's last album too, where we made sure we both sang harmonies, you know. And then there's actually a few places where Brendan sang too, and like the three voices all together was a nice sort of balance. And then certain songs I would sing harmony, and then there's a couple songs where we had CJ sing harmony because we wanted the more intense voice on the harmony too. So if you have multiple people that can sing in a band, or you know, if you have a song with multiple people singing, it's nice to kind of to blend different voices together. In this case, it worked really well. And then that background choir figure is basically just completely doubled with a pad and then a clean guitar. Those are just supporting that vocal part a little bit. And then we have the bass and drums, which is pretty cool on this part. A completely different bass tone on this part. I went for, you know, the heavy bass tone wasn't going to work, so this is a clean bass tone. So this 7, it's in 7/4 here. This rhythm is actually based off that 2-3-5 pattern that I talked about earlier that happened, you know, a number of different times. So it's that happens 4 times, and then there's a remainder of 2 beats, and I hit the and of the first of those 2 beats and then the beat. So it's kind of hard to explain. So I guess that would be the and of beat 6 and then beat 7. So if I count along. 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 and obviously I'm not hitting all those notes. I'm selectively choosing different ones, but that's kind of forming the basis of the overall groove. I love the tinkly little cymbal bits happening too. And I had to sample the rim click because I wanted to get that nice and loud. All right. Just a little extra beef to it. And then between the 2 vocal parts, which are basically the same, just the second one is louder, there's that dissonant riff again with some over-the-top drum fills. I want to listen to Phil. Once again, it's flashy, but it's very much hitting all the important parts that I wanted of that particular riff, so it was totally cool with me for it to be over the top. You know, there's ways that you can play flashy stuff and technical stuff and still have it work within the context of a song, and a song like this is a good place to do that. You know, some kinds of music you wouldn't want to do that, of course. But that just requires a level of musicianship to be able to do that, and Esteban's really good at that. He's played enough of my music, he knows what's going on. And then the second half of the verse this bridge is basically the same thing. I add some overdriven guitars on the sort of bass part. I'll add some strings too. I actually love this part so much that I turned this into a backing track to improvise over. I'm going to be putting that out, I don't remember when, in a couple of weeks. It's really cool. I just got rid of the lead vocals. I even kept some of the background vocal harmonies. Makes a really super fun fusion backing track to solo over. Definitely do not have the right tone for this, but you can get the idea. I don't know how well this is going to be synced. I have no idea if the audio is synced on that my guitar and the backing there, but it ended up being this. I love this part so much. I was like, this has got to be the place to do a backing track. So it'll be a fun little fusion backing track to solo over. It's actually a really good one for practicing switching between a couple different kind of modes, and the vibe of it is really fun to do. To solo over, and then from here it jumps into the solo. Actually, I got to listen to CJ's vocals on their own. And then we'll get through the rest of this, and I got stuff to do. It's Friday night. Lead vocals are there.
The future set before us, the promised land.
Yeah, I love it. That's the power on those high notes. That's kind of like the climax. Feels like the climax of the whole song to me, really, or kind of like what one part where it really climaxes. Anyway, you're climaxing there, CJ. Anyway, that leads right into the solo, which basically does the vocal like background melody at first, kind of trading between left and right, and then it goes into the sort of shreddy bit of the solo, which is only 4 measures long, but. Right back to the chorus. So if you listen to the 2 lead guitars, so they're trading off rhythmically. They're also an octave apart. So the first one plays, and then the second one fills in the space, and then so on and so forth. And then the solo. This part sucks to play. I'm not even going to attempt to do it properly. But what I do is a lot of these sweeps, but I'll tremolo pick. I climax in a band. What if that's all you did in your song as you're singing? It's just an entire song of you. This is a family stream, CJ. So I tremolo pick, and then sweep pick down. Oof, I'm not warmed up to do this, but it's a cool sound. I do it at the end of the solo too. Yeah, there we go. That kind of a thing. That first big sweeping lick is gnarly. I'll do it very slowly. Really hard. I tap, bend, release, pull off, slide, bend a higher note. So it's like a bunch of stuff happening all at once. acceptable for now. I also do a 2-finger tap there, which I'm not the best at those, but sometimes I'll do it. Tapping with 2 different fingers on the top of the arpeggio. All right, that's the best I've done so far on that one. I'm not going to do any more. There's some more kind of fusion-esque licks in the middle. Like that. 16th note bass licks. There's a triplet one. Something like that. It's been a while since I played this. I'm actually, at some point, I'm going to relearn this and do like a live take of it. I still have to do that for Great Stereopticon too. So I'll relearn it appropriately, but that's how it goes. It's a real short and sweet solo, but I'm pretty pleased with how it turned out. There's some really cool licks in there overall. That goes right back to the last chorus. And as I mentioned earlier, the last chorus is just a simplified version of the previous chorus. Basically, I don't do that riff anymore. I just pound out big chords in the guitars. And there's a vocal harmony, too. That's kind of like one of the big differences here. So the other two choruses, there's no harmony. But here...
Caught behind the camera, I can see the prisons made for those who believe they're free.
It's an interesting note.
Caught behind the camera, I can see the ghosts our fathers left across the sand.
And you can see that in a few places there, I dropped the harmonies out, like on that last big note and then this run before. If you're doing harmonies, they don't have to like happen the entire... They don't have to always mirror exactly rhythmically what the main vocal is doing. It's like they can cut out in certain places, and that way that particular line gets a little more highlighted in the lead vocal if I drop it out. And then the ending of the song is basically the intro, but instead of having the odd time signatures, like there's a few 7/4 bars in the intro, it's just all in 6/4. Much more straightforward, just to kind of tie everything together. And actually, the tempo slows down, too. I wonder if I have that on. I do. This is very subtle, but the tempo slows down in this last measure right before the outro from 112 to 105, and then right at the very end when these gallops happen in the last measure, it goes back to 112. And what's really funny is actually Esteban, for some reason, he didn't get the tempo mapping when he recorded, so he recorded all of this at 112 beats per minute, and then I had to go in and like in time stretch his drums on this last part to be at 105. It's not his fault that for some reason he didn't get the time stretching part. So anyway, he actually played this part faster than, you know how people play things slower and then speed it up. Like that's the claim that people say about a lot of guitar players. But in this case, Esteban played it faster and then slowed it down. It was like the ultimate. He's like, I need to play it above the actual tempo. This isn't hard enough for me. Anyway, so it slows down very slightly. It's almost imperceptible. Like, it's just enough that it adds an extra level of sort of epicness to this end. So I wonder if I turn on the... Well, if you turn on the click, you wouldn't even be able to tell probably, but... Right there on that gallop riff is where it jumps right back up to 112 beats per minute. Basically, this is it's the exact same melody as the intro, except for I have vocals join halfway through. This is kind of this part hasn't been done vocally up to this point. It's just been done instrumentally. It's kind of a weird part to sing because it jumps an entire octave. It's hold up. That's it's an octave jump, which is tough to do on the vocals. So.
Behold What a divine legacy.
And then it's doubled with some screaming on this last.
A future not for you or me.
So bringing back that Triplet Gallop riff as well as some of the harsh vocals at the very end, it just kind of ties that different part of the song in at the very end. I'm very aware of what kind of connective things that I can do to a song. Probably too aware in some cases. I'm always like trying to connect things back to other parts of the song. But I think in a song like this, it kind of just adds an extra level of interest. Hopefully, as people listen to it again, they'll think, "Oh, okay, I remember hearing that earlier," or whatever. So yeah, that's basically the end of the song there. So this is Broken Epistemology. This is off the Great Stereopticon EP, which I just put out a couple weeks ago. It's literally just this song and the Great Stereopticon. 2-song EP. I was just kind of planning on doing them as singles, but they kind of work together thematically. They both had real drums and vocals, so I decided just to release them together. I do have tabs available. I think all the links for that stuff is going to be below in the description of this video. I have tabs for both these songs. I was thinking about doing some like quote unquote producer packs where I have the raw stems sort of thing. I've done a few of those in the past. Stupid camera shutting off on me. But you can pick up the album on my Bandcamp. It's also on all the streaming services too if you want to check it out. I'm pretty pleased with how this song turned out. I mean, it was a long time coming. I think CJ sent me his recorded vocals actually about a year ago now at this point. Life's been crazy, and I wanted to kind of try to release these songs properly. Gigging has been going well. It's going to pick up like crazy here. I play with a really high-end event and wedding band, so we're pretty much booked every weekend through the summer, from this weekend till pretty much the end of September. So it's good. It's good to be busy and doing music. And then I have some really cool things coming up. One thing in particular for the Prog School. I'm not going to kind of give anything away, but I have a very special whole week-long thing planned coming up next month. It's going to feature. I have to finish up the video. It's like the most sort of intense video I've done up to this point. It's a very different style from my instructional videos. I'm pretty pleased with it so far, so we'll see how it comes out, but I'm excited about putting that out. But I'm doing that on top of having a bunch of gigs and students and stuff. So also I do have some lesson availability if there's people out there who want to take some lessons, even if it's just like one every once in a while. I do that. I can do that kind of stuff. I just uploaded like 4 or 5 videos yesterday for the rest of the month. Also, if you haven't seen, I dropped a podcast with my friend Gerald who did the lyrics for this song. I've put out 2 episodes so far. You can find it on all the podcasting apps, but also on YouTube. I've put in the video versions of the podcast. We kind of go through famous prog albums each episode, talking about the history of it, the sort of cultural and political underlying things that were happening at the time, and then I'd go through the music and talk all about how the music's put together, like what are some of the themes, like what are the musicians doing here, blah, 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 all that kind of stuff. So it's really fun, and we dive pretty deep into a lot of these albums. It's kind of been good for me to go back and listen to them. We did King Crimson, we've done Yes, and then our next one, which will come out next week, is Pink Floyd, which was one that I'm really excited about. We actually filmed the first podcasts like over a year ago at this point. Once again, it just didn't make sense to release them back then for some reason. So, but we have more planned. We're going to start filming a few more here soon, Gerald and I. So that's the Prog School podcast, if you want to look it up. If you're a fan of podcasts, put it on when you're in the car. It is helpful to get a few plays here and there for us, because I don't know. I'm not even sure what I'm doing with YouTube, but I definitely don't know what I'm doing when it comes to podcasts as far as like promoting yourself. But yeah, that's all the stuff that's going on in the Prog School. Lots of cool things happening. It's been a slow build, but I'm proud of where everything's come so far, and obviously everything it's nice to have all these videos out I can look back on it later and be like, hey, look at all this work I did. Anyway, so as always, if you like what I do, you can share it with anyone you think who'd be interested. I'd like to think I have a somewhat unique thing going on here in the Prog School. Not that I'm the world's greatest YouTuber, but because I'm definitely not. But I enjoy what I do, and I have a lot of fun doing it. So go check out Broken Epistemology. You can check out the playthrough video. I have it linked below. See us all play this song straight through. And then you can come back and check out some of this other stuff. Check out the lesson I did earlier this week on this song and the structure of it and how I put it all together. I have a couple other lessons that I put out. I put a lesson covering the Great Stereopticon. Of course, there's the music video for the Great Stereopticon if you haven't seen that too. So that's it. I'm done plugging myself. I'm going to go clean up my house before dinner. So you guys all have a good evening and a good weekend. And I'll probably drop another live stream, I don't know, sometime in the next month or so. I'm trying to figure out how often I should do these, but I'll let everyone know when that time comes. So until next time, stay proggy.